It is Donald Trump's first 100 days as of today. And boys, he's celebrating. He's got a big old rally and he is talking about everything he's facing. And he is facing record amount of lawsuits, 220. He's facing a record amount of unconstitutional universal injunctions. And I guess what we call a judicial coup. And Matt Taibbi is writing, he writes an article asking, is this a soft civil war? And perhaps we've crossed the point of no return. I know everybody's talking about it, but I guess it just remains to be seen if there's going to be an off-ramp or not. In other news, the judge from Wisconsin has been removed from the court, which is pretty crazy. And we do have a bunch of other issues. I got a funny one for you. Chuck Todd is arguing that they did nothing wrong in the Biden story. They didn't cover it up. They didn't miss this. That's a right-wing narrative. Oh, boy. So we're going to talk about that. Plus, a lot of what's going on with this Kilmar Abrego guy. Turns out there's a 2018 report where the husband, the ex-husband of the guy he's married to now, of the lady he's married to now, claimed he was in a gang. It was a threat to his children. It's going to get interesting. Before we get started, my friends, make sure you head over to castbrew.com and buy some delicious Cast Brew coffee. We have so many different choices. We got Phil's Gingerbread, 2 weeks till Christmas, and get it while you can. Alex Stein's Primetime Grind is about to sell out, and it will be gone forever. So maybe you just want that crazy bag of that crazy guy's face. Then I recommend you get it now at castbrew.com because it will be discontinued soon. Though we will be launching something different with Alex Stein in the future. Also, don't forget, head over to timcast.com, click Join Us, become a member to get access to our Discord community where you, my friends, can call in to our after show on Rumble and get up on stage with us at the Culture War Live. So this Saturday night, we will be live for the Culture War show. Will Chamberlain will be debating Pisco Lydia, liberal lawyer, over whether or not it was legal or right to deport Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And considering this new information that's coming out, it's going to deeply influence what these guys think about this debate. Now, we have about 15 or so submissions from our members, 60 seats sold, and it not a big venue, so it's a pretty tight-knit event. But we're going to have you guys as members come up on stage and join the debate. And it's a pilot. We're going to see how it works out. If you want to get involved in our Discord community, be on the show and other things like that, you go to timcast.com. You click Join Us. You get the Discord server, or you get the Discord app, join our Discord server. Don't forget to also smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Tim Young.
Hey. What's going on, man?
Who are you? What
do I do? I don't know. I'm the Heritage Foundation's media fellow for strategic communication. I'm CEO of a company called Veebs, which is pretty cool. And I'm Tim Runs His Mouth on social media. And more importantly, I'm not you. And that's what I wanted to come here and talk about is that, you have very intelligent listeners and viewers. And then you have some that kind of fall a little short. And when they're upset at you, they tweet at me.
I have to imagine those are the hate watchers and they're probably the liberals who catch the show after the fact. Or they're probably just watching a clip from the show posted by some liberal who took it out of context.
But we don't look anywhere near each other. We're both hat-wearing fellas. That's
you have
about
glasses. I don't.
There you go. I'm a little chonkier right now. I'm going to work on that. But, I just, so the haters out there, if you could just note the difference, although I do really
all
like...
Tims are the same.
I think I've just been kind of riding the wave when they hate you, man. It just gets me some...
I appreciate you taking all of that trolling so I don't have to.
I'm just helping you out from afar.
I appreciate it. Should be fun. Thanks for hanging out. We got Brett hanging out.
I couldn't even tell the difference between the two of you. What's going on, guys?
It's uncanny.
It's uncanny. They look exactly alike. Brett here, usually Pop Culture Crisis, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's talk about stuff.
Hello, my name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
It is a meaningless holiday, I guess. It's Trump's first 100 days. And most of you may not know this, but it's meaningless. It was made up by the press 100 years ago because FDR was doing a bunch of crazy stuff. And they were like, look what he did in his 100 days. And then from then on, people were like, 100 days. It signifies nothing. You can't guarantee things get done. But sure, here we are. Now, Donald Trump may not be FDR. He's got a bunch of other things under his belt. ABC News reports 220 lawsuits in 100 days. Trump administration faces unprecedented legal blitz. The administration has been sued over nearly every element of Trump's agenda. And then, of course, this report, which we've covered from Congress.gov several times, talking about how Donald Trump has more universal injunctions filed against his administration than all other administrations, and he has around 40% of all universal injunctions ever issued. And, well, I got to say, they're unconstitutional. But, right now, the big question is, how are we doing? How does Donald Trump hold up in your view? Do you hold him in great esteem in these 100 days?
Look, he's just for the results at the border alone, I give him a B+, right? Because we went from having a massive influx every day, thousands or tens of thousands of people coming into the country every single day to, almost none or very, very, very few. And that was simply by enforcing the law and implementing what really amount to small changes. There have been no significant changes. Maybe they're a decent sized changes because there are military assets at the border. So he activated the National Guard, I guess, or actually I think it was the Marine Corps. But they're actually doing something. That alone, that was fulfilling one of the major reasons that people voted for Donald Trump. So right off the bat, I think he's at least doing okay.
I think it's interesting that the discussion this time around in the second term has changed the focus from, I feel like in the first term, now maybe it's just been such a long time since I focused on that, was that it was about the building of the border wall, and it was about trying to get the financing and the funding for the border wall. But what focusing on deportations has done is it's thrown into contrast just how similar previous administrations were on this topic to show you just how far left things have gone within certain sections of the Democratic Party. Because if you look at the numbers when Barack Obama was in office between deportations and turnaways at the border, you see something fairly similar. Despite the fact that they were letting a lot of people in, they were getting those numbers up by turning people away at the border and reclassifying those deportations. So for those who are willing to look into it and those who actually want to grow and see where politics has changed, you can look at what things were like between 2008 and 2016, and you can see a vast shift. And I think maybe that's not the focus of the first 100 days, but for the people that are paying close attention, it kind of helps form a narrative for things.
I'm going to go with the grading because you went with the grading. I'm going to go B+ as well, not just because of the border, though. He is balls to the wall with executive orders. He's doing everything he can possibly do. You have to remember when you're putting in cabinet members, nothing can really get accomplished until you have the staffing for those cabinet members. So you have a bunch of people in there with a bunch of great ideas that hopefully will have the backup soon to be able to enact them. But as far as what he can do personally from the White House and from the Oval Office, I think he's done more than what any other president has ever done, especially as a conservative and a Republican. He came in, I think he learned from his first 4 years. He came in like a bull in a china shop and signed everything. Literally, I don't even know when the man has a break from signing executive orders at this point, basically.
I don't know when the man sleeps. Yeah. Apparently he sleeps 6 hours a night.
Sounds about right.
That's crazy. So the big question here, though, is this, is approval. So RCP approval ratings in aggregate has Trump at -7. But I do want to stress, completely meaningless. Society is collapsing. The end is nigh. And these polls are, I'm exaggerating, guys. The polls mean absolutely nothing is what I'm trying to say. You've got NPR, ABC, CNN, and I believe Daily Mail, and New York Times and CBS. They're all saying in the past week, Trump is double digits underwater. Mm-hmm. Right? That's crazy. Now, Rasmussen has him -4, and they tend to be more accurate. And, we had the guy from Rasmussen on recently, and they have been very, very accurate. But my issue with the aggregate polling right now is that you can have two polls, one saying Trump is up 1, and the next day he's -9, or I should say the next period. Then he's -2. They're all completely different and random. Back, let's just go back 8 years when I used to cover a lot more of this stuff in the first Trump term, and I'd always go for these polls and I'd be tracking them every day. They were fairly similar. They'd all have Trump at like -6 or 7, and they wouldn't change that much because what's really going on? How is it that you've got these corporate polls showing Trump double digits underwater, and the swing from the polls is insane? This week it's plus that, then it's minus that. That's why I say it's largely meaningless. But what I will say is Trump is down. Okay. Rasmussen had Trump up at the beginning of the month at, I believe he was +4, and now he's -4. So it was a big swing. This is not good for Donald Trump. But I don't think it's apocalyptic. Now, the reason why I don't want to use aggregates, as I often say, people are going to be like, Tim, you always say use aggregates. It's because they're all randomized at this point. All the polls, all these pollsters have changed their systems up, and now they're giving wildly different numbers across the board. Now, you can make the argument that, NPR, ABC, CNN, Daily Mail, they all show Trump, minus 10, 12, 10, 14, 13, 10. That's pretty comparable, right? But this whole 100 days, it's like during the same period, one of these polls would have Trump at +9 and one would have him like -3. I'm like, how is that possible that we're getting such wildly different numbers? What I do think matters is that if you track any single poll that you trust, and so Rasmussen we trust, and they are showing Trump down. So comparing Rasmussen to itself, you don't necessarily know if it reflects the greater population at this 100 days, but you do know that it reflects the movement of how people are feeling, because Rasmussen polls generally the same way every time. So if we want to argue that they're the most accurate, or they tend to be very accurate, and they do, I believe the past several elections, they were all within the margin of error, pretty spot on, then this shows that Trump has gone down a bit. The question for you guys, I think, is do you believe the American population really holds Trump at a double-digit negative view right now? Or do you think that the corporate press is just playing games?
Corporate press. I mean, isn't he still down in Iowa 14 points? Remember that poll that came out just before the election? Yeah. I mean, what's more important here, too, is do you think the White House cares? And when you have this constant spin with the tariffs and everything that he's doing, he's taking very, very bold moves. The strongest moves I've seen from a president just in general in my lifetime coming in, other than maybe Biden, who tried to reverse everything from Trump as soon as he came in.
I'm loving this, right? Joe Biden, who tried to decree a constitutional amendment, and they're saying Trump is a dictator.
Yeah. So is this what's going to happen? So every time we get a new administration and it switches to the other party, they're just going to undo everything that everybody did through executive order?
No.
No?
No, because society is collapsing and the end is nigh.
So by the time the next administration comes in, there won't be a government?
No, I'm kidding. Like I do think you're largely correct, but I will stress, obviously, we have this Matt Taibbi article where he's asking about civil war, and it's because people largely missed this story, which is interesting. He's just writing about it now, that a whole bunch of uniparty Democrats wrote a letter vowing to mobilize and stop Trump recently. And I'm just seeing this. I'm like, okay, I didn't realize that. And mobilize is a very specific term. But there's
what do they mean by mobilize?
We know what it means. When the Democrats say go out in the streets, they're not saying to sing songs, hold hands under a rainbow like Kumbaya. Right, they're saying form a gigantic mass so that far left extremists can firebomb buildings.
Were you talking about Democrat politicians or just people who support the Democratic Party?
Establishment shills, like people who worked in the deep state and Clinton and things like this. We'll get into that story. What I was going to say is one story that's been bubbling up recently is that this is the year the demographic cliff is supposed to start. And, I didn't know about this because when the financial crisis happened, I guess, how old was I? 22 years old? 21, 22? And for me, I was broke as a joke as it was. So when the market crashed and bottomed out, here's the floor, right? I'm right here. Everybody else is here. They go down. I didn't really notice much. I was like, still poor.
Yeah.
But when this happened, what most people at the time were talking about is that people stopped having kids. And so now it has been 18 years. We are supposed to see a new generation of workers entering the workforce, going to colleges, and they don't exist. So this is going to cause a massive train wreck in our economy in ways that we don't exactly know how that's going to happen. So when I say society is crumbling and the end is nigh, I'm just thinking about, these movies that are bombing, these video games that won't sell. And for a while, I'm thinking, I really do think the issue is there's no kids anymore. There is a shortage of young people.
Well, toys right now are the number one consumer of toys are people our age.
Yeah, it's really.
My buddy bought me a Tim Pool. Shout out Andy. He bought me a Tim Pool Pokemon card and Pokemon toy because I'm a Pokemon. Most people don't know this. I literally am a Pokemon. They made a Pokemon after me. How many of you get to say that? Look, you think I'm joking? Take a look. Tim Pool. Did you guys know that? There you go.
I saw this, yeah.
Tell me that the little blue and black frog with headphones on named Tim Pool is not me when that is the colors we use for the company and he's wearing headphones. I digress. You are right. Adults are buying toys. They made the adult Happy Meal. There's no kids. So what I will say is to your question, Brett, when you ask, every administration is going to change and do this. I was thinking about what happens to a civilization when they undergo a population collapse. Now, I don't know for sure. It's probably stupid for me to speculate in this way, but there were the English peasant revolts after the Black Plague. And this was because with massive labor shortages following the Black Plague, the governments were trying to suppress, like the workers basically had a lot of leverage. So they were like, you need us for day-to-day operations in ways like you can't do. So we can have whatever we want. So the government tries suppressing them to stop them. So they tried using force against the leverage they had, which resulted in revolts. So I'm wondering, I don't think we're looking at as big a population drop-off as like the Black Plague. There was like 30 to 60% of the population of Europe. But I am wondering what's going to happen when we were just hearing the other day in Charlestown, West Virginia, businesses are closing because they can't find workers. There's I mention this all the time. There's restaurants that we've been to where they say that they closed after COVID and they can't reopen because they can't find anybody to do the work. So, simple version, the next administration that comes in, if there will be one, it is going to be radicals. And they're with what this crisis brings, I think we're going to end up with hyper-polarized ideological solutions and factions vying for power that if they get the power, will try to enact very radical things. So with that being said, the Trump administration is doing something absolutely radical. And a lot of people might want to say, no, this is totally normal as America. But hold on. The past 30 years has been uniparty neoliberal rule with the Republicans saying, slow down there, Democrats. They've opened our borders, advised our children, the children of this nation to not have their own kids, to stop having kids because of climate change or to get abortions. Then they opened up the borders to allow tens of millions of people in. And Trump is seeking to reverse it in a way that is very, very different. They now are calling to mobilize against them. So there you go. Rant over.
Yeah. So does that pave the way for like a Bernie AOC ticket for 2028?
AOC maybe.
Yeah.
But
Bernie just
not Bernie.
drag his ass.
Well, Bernie's too old.
It's not just that. It's like, with all due respect, I'm not trying to be a dick to Bernie, but he's past the average life expectancy for a male. Mm-hmm. Considering he's never actually done a job in his life that may either, I'm actually curious. I would assume that if you've never worked, you probably would live longer. You know what I mean?
Less stress.
Like an animal in captivity. Yeah. However, you also might be weaker,
Look at Joe Biden. I mean, he was in, how long was he in government office?
Yeah, 50 some odd years,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All of his adult life. So.
Bernie
20%
Sanders,
of this nation's history.
Bernie's never had a real job, right?
Of course not.
He's only ever worked in government.
I do wonder if, I don't think Bernie's going to run at all, but I think that not only is it his age, but I think that he couldn't win because he's too spineless. Mm-hmm. He bent over and took it from the Democrats. And I don't know if that's because he didn't really want to be the president bad enough to actually do it, or if that he was just afraid. But, he kissed the ring for Hillary Clinton. And I can't get over when he was on stage and those two women came up and essentially took over. He was like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to assert myself and keep the stage without obviously breaking every left-leaning faux pas there is.
I think what might happen is AOC may win a primary narrowly, and then she gets a really low turnout. Mm-hmm. In 2020, people are saying she might run 2028. Mm-hmm. I think that'd be silly. I don't think she should, but maybe she will because the Democrats have got nobody else. But we don't know what the Republicans have either. But if it is Vance or it is some popular, Trump has got these Trump 2028 hats, and people are joking, that Trump's going to run again. But he said he won't do it. Could be Don Jr. Who knows?
Yeah,
could be another Trump.
AOC's gotten better. She's finally gotten better at public speaking. She had many a bad interview. Obviously, we make fun of her all the time. But when you see her in front of these crowds, she's pulled it together. The voice is still kind of but she's actually taken proper advice from people.
I hear you, but guys, the way you sound matters. Deep voices matter. And I know people are going to say it's sexist and the feminists are going to get angry. Don't care. I'm going to tell you the secret right now.
It's like height matters.
I've told it on the show before. I did nonprofit fundraising for several years, and I imagine it's the exact same thing with sales. There is one characteristic above all else among men and one characteristic above all else among women that typically, that I would say confers they will sell very, very well. And among men, what do you think that trait is?
Deep voice.
No.
No?
Height.
Oh, okay.
You got to be very tall.
Yeah.
Among women, what is the one trait that tends to confer this woman will sell well?
I don't
It's
know.
easy, guys.
I mean, I want
It's
to say
easy, boys.
big boobs.
Big boobs. And
I wanted to say that. I'm like, I don't know. Should I say it?
that's because feminists are going to get angry about it. But guys, let's be real. If there's a woman with big breasts standing on a street corner and she waves to you, every single guy will stop. 100% of men. And then when she blinks and she smiles and says, I want you to buy this product from me or sign up for this program or donate to charity, the guys go, okay. Now, if you have a tall guy, same thing happens the other way around. Men and women stop for tall guys. So for AOC, being an average height woman trying to be a leader, this is a challenge that women will always have. And I know the left is gonna clip this and they're gonna call it sexist. I am literally saying there is an inherent sexism in all of human beings, and they will look at a woman and think she is too small and weak to be war chief. And that's what a president is. They're the commander in chief of the armed forces. And this will, the only way.
Boob job.
No.
Oh, okay.
Is if the Republican and the Democrats both run a female in the primary and they both win. So I believe was it Gerald Ford? Someone said the first female president will be a VP and the president will either step down or be removed and that VP will become president. And then if she runs again and let's say the Republicans, the Democrats primary a woman, that's how you get a female president. But how that woman wins in a primary, I don't know, which is probably why when the Democrats ran Hillary Clinton, the field was nothing. You guys remember this in 2016?
Yeah.
Nobody ran. There were like, what, 2 guys?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and one of them was Bernie Sanders, and he
Oh,
kissed
I know.
the ring. I mean, I know you say that about and I don't disagree with any of your points about height and whether or not, men or America would vote for a woman. I don't know. That being said, if there is a woman that could win, I think AOC would be it. I think because even though her voice is a little grating, when she's actually talking to people and when she's on camera, when you can see her, she's very charismatic and she knows how to use social media. Again, I disagree. I'm not disputing any of your points about whether or not about what people want. But I think that she is talented, and I think that she's compelling.
I agree with that, but I will also agree with the feminists when they say it is hard for a woman to sound commanding and not bitchy.
Yeah, it totally is.
I agree with the feminists on that one.
But it's possible. I mean, and maybe AOC can't, but you can look at people like Margaret. Margaret Thatcher was a great example because she didn't sound shrill.
How old was she?
She was probably 50 when she did.
This is the other issue I will add is that what do people look up to in terms of authority? And it's going to be older people. So you can have a guy. I feel like, and I could be wrong about all this. Whatever. When I worked in nonprofit stuff, this is exactly what we saw in every single office. Busty women always came back with tons of memberships and tons of money, and the tall guys. And there were. I remember this one really short dude. He was like 5'4", and he was chubby. And he sold like crazy. He signed people up left and right for these nonprofits.
She was 53 when she was elected as a prime minister of the UK in 1979. So let's go ahead. Sorry.
This dude who did really well was a fast talker who seemed very slick but very charismatic. And so here's a guy who developed the ability and the style and was able to succeed through skills, right? But I think long story short, I believe AOC is going to have that hurdle. She's too young. She's too young, and there's going to be a lot of older guys who are going to say, yeah, right, it's not going to happen. But let's jump to this next story from Rackets. From Matt Taibbi, are we in a soft civil war? Indeed, are we? He writes, I'll try and go quick because he does write a lot, but it is interesting. On Sunday, April 27th, Donald Trump Jr. joined an event in Bulgaria hosted by a controversial crypto firm, Nexo. Nexo in 2023 was fined $45 million by the SEC. We get it. The visit by Trump Jr. coincided with a sharpening public relations campaign at home. Former Treasury Secretary Stephen Ratner argued in the New York Times that we're witnessing a new low in corruption after the Trump meme coin. He goes on to say, it also came days after 200 former diplomats and security officials signed a group letter titled, quote, "The Assault on American Democracy, a Call to Action," featuring signatories like Susan Rice, Anthony Lake, and impeachment witness former Ukraine ambassador Marie Yovanovitch. The letter contained eyebrow-raising language, quote, "Many of us have served in countries where democratically elected leaders followed a path to autocracy, and we know this crisis requires an urgent and unified response. Waiting passively for the electoral calendar to fight back does nothing more than give the administration additional time and running room to impose its authoritarian stamp. No American can afford to be a bystander. Each of us in different walks of life must speak out, mobilize, defend our way of life. The moment requires nothing less. We must recognize the seriousness of what is taking place and act collectively to restore our democracy and our security." He goes on to mention the word mobilize has been appearing a lot in op-eds and political speeches. He says the recent letter received no press outside of Bulgaria, making it necessary to reach out to signatories like former CIA intelligence officer Ann Gruner to confirm authenticity. The call for ex-officials to act now instead of waiting passively for the electoral calendar appears to have been organized by former ambassador to Bulgaria, Eric Rubin, who gave an interview about it on Bulgarian TV Saturday. Rubin has not responded for requests to comment. He goes on to mention the first 100 days of the Trump admin have been marked by blunt offensives against political opponents, from executive orders targeting law firms like Wilmer Hale, Perkins Coie, Jenner and Block, and the firing of career officials, the National Security Council, the DOJ, to the stripping of security clearances for figures like Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. These moves prompted a cascade of news stories describing an unprecedented assault on the constitutional order, and those increasingly are accompanied by editorials calling for mobilization or revolution. Now, there's more. He mentioned David Brooks calling for a national civic uprising, J.B. Pritzker calling for mobilization and mass protests. Not to mention, I will add to this, the judicial coup with more universal injunctions against Trump than any other administration and 220 lawsuits. Right now, he is calling it a soft civil war. Eric Weinstein called it an administrative civil war. The question then is, are we actually in this conflict? And does it get worse?
It gets worse. I think it definitely gets worse. It's not lightening up. If you would have told me, by the way, this is that quote from that letter. If you can pull it up real quick for people, if you went out on the street and said, "Who said this?" Hitler or somebody else, people would lean towards Hitler on this.
That's actually a really good idea. So for someone to go out, do a man on the street, maybe we can have Alad do it.
Alad, yeah. I was gonna say.
Here's the quote. Who said this? What famous historical figure? I actually don't know who wrote the letter. Waiting passively for the electoral calendar to fight back does nothing more than give the administration additional time and running room to impose its authoritarian stamp. If you said, who said this, the Democrats or Hitler? I don't know. Yeah. I actually don't know.
Speak out, mobilize, defend our way of life. I mean, you could just see it.
Yeah, they'd say Hitler.
Oh, yeah.
Defend our way of life?
Yeah.
What is that way of life for Democrats? You know what this is? I got to be honest. This is 200 former diplomats and security officials. They probably all live in Loudoun County in McLean, Virginia. Yes. And when they're saying defend our way of life, they're talking about the government giving phony grants to NGOs to pay them as lawyers.
Yeah. It's their castle. Their castle is their way of life. I mean, It sounds a lot like what our foreign policy would have sounded like post 9/11, defending our way of life.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I mean, and one of the alluring factors of that phrase is it's like Obama's hope and change.
It's nebulous.
It's nebulous. It doesn't actually mean anything, so the listener can apply what's their way of life. What way of life is being threatened? Well, it's your way of life. It doesn't matter what someone else is or how someone else conceptualizes it. Mm-hmm. Just like what hope and change meant to every person that was listening was totally different.
Yeah, it meant whatever you wanted it to mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think things get better, not in the age of social media. I don't think things can get better. People are going to be continued to be fed whatever information confirms their own bias towards a specific situation, and it's just going to continue to get worse.
I was thinking about, I was talking with the missus today, and we were talking about general investment, like what do you do? And of course, I've got crypto, I've got gold, I've got emergency food. And I was like, I think we should probably build a shed and get some general tools we need to be able to produce things that we need in the event the supply chain breaks. Because they're talking about shortages over the tariffs. Maybe not. I don't know. There's already reports that shipments from China for the month of April are basically gone. Yeah. Basically, which means we got about a month or so before we start noticing the ripple effect. Resources from China that are used to make products in America and then products directly made in China will be absent, obviously. Now, that may be bad in the short term. It may be good in the long term. I don't know. But the idea is like, what do you do when you go to Target and there's no baby formula? What do you do when you go to Target or Walmart and there's no T-shirts or, certain materials,
Well,
fabrics?
what happened during COVID was people ran out of toilet paper and then they started fighting each other. So
Indeed, they did. Yeah. So you combine this with what I keep harping on about, this demographic cliff, a shortage of new labor, and it's looking pretty worrisome in the short term.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I don't think that we get a significant portion of our food from overseas.
We don't.
So I don't imagine that we're going to have, that kind of fighting over garbage plastic stuff, that kind of stuff. It's going to affect the economy. There are going to be people that are not, they're going to be bummed out. But I think that the real inflaming things are like when food isn't hitting the shelves and stuff like that. So I don't know that I'm convinced there is something that actually sets it off. Not that I'm saying that there aren't a million things that I possibly could be overlooking here. And I'm certainly of the opinion that, I don't know where the off ramp is, but we've talked about, civil conflict or whatever on this show a couple times in the past, or frequently. And I'm still of the opinion the normies don't get involved over people throwing firebombs at Tesla.
No, but toilet paper.
Yeah.
Toilet paper.
They were fighting for those videos were nuts.
Yeah, they were. I was always like my perspective on it as like a dummy was like, it doesn't seem like the fighting would really begin. I'm not talking about political fighting, but the general population until food shortages came, because we have so much technology and general convenience that people have been kind of zapped into a sort of zombieism where they're not really taking stock of what's going on in the world. But once the food shortages come, but now they can't get a new iPhone and the food shortages.
What you're talking about isn't political strife though. That's like end of the world stuff.
No, that's what I'm saying is like when I think about what pushes someone towards a specific political message could be that type of food shortage.
I'm not worried necessarily about that point where society totally collapses and then people are fighting in the streets for the last can of beans. I'm worried about some, mustachioed guy in a flannel with suspenders on trying to raid my chicken coop in the middle of the night. Before you get to the point of total collapse, you'll see an escalation in crime from people who are trying to steal, because that's how they secure resources. So I'm worried about if we start seeing businesses going under, shortages of supplies, not just food, you're going to see a lot of crime.
B&Es.
Yeah, things like that.
Asians.
So I don't know. What I will say is one of the most valuable things in the event of total collapse. Let's just do this. Let's say Ben Davidson is completely right. He's the space weather guy, which is that massive power outage in Europe. Let's say it wasn't a cyber attack, it wasn't an error, and the magnetosphere is weakening and we're going to get blasted by solar radiation and the power goes out. I've been thinking about the most valuable thing at that point is going to be some books. No joke. Right? People really take...
How to build things.
Yeah. Yep. How to build stuff. How to distill alcohol. How to use alcohol to distill other... I mean, just think about how to extract an element from... how do you get iron out of dirt?
You're looking at me. I don't know.
I got to go find a book. Let me find a book.
Yeah.
And there are people who know this stuff. Like how you find an iron deposit.
Not enough people, though.
How do you separate the iron from the other... how do you get the heat? How do you get a fire hot enough to actually smelt? And it's crazy that This is commonplace back in the day, but very few people know how to do this stuff.
And you won't have YouTube to look it up on, which is how I fix everything.
This is something that, like, if you pay attention to the prepper community, like, one of the things that they say all the time is, like, these things should be your hobbies now when they can be hobbies. You should be learning, like Tim says, get chickens. You should have that stuff, as a hobby. So that way, if a time ever comes where you need it, you're valuable to your community. Because if you're a blacksmith and you make, knives for fun, or you make whatever it is for fun, right? If something like that happens where there's a significant issue with the way our society works, and we have to rewind the clock by 150 years, then you become one of the most popular guys in town, because no one can come and steal your knowledge of blacksmithing. It's not like you have a thing that people can come in and kick the door in and take from you.
Except you do know why Smith is the most common name, right?
Well, because there was a lot of blacksmiths.
No.
Why?
Because there's one blacksmith who did it a lot.
Because when war broke out in Europe, they would never send a blacksmith to war.
Yeah.
And when conquered, the conquerors would not murder the blacksmiths.
Yeah. But
so the Smiths were able to have lots of kids.
That's my point. Like, if you know how to do something, whether it be blacksmithing or whether it be farming or whatever it may be, like, if you're a gardener and you have, like, this big massive garden, it's like you become valuable, and
yes.
While you have the time, it's not a bad idea to make one or some of these things into a hobby when it's
Can you imagine like what's going to happen if these shortages get really bad and we do see the economy just train wreck? What's a feminist dance major gonna do?
Yeah,
it's like you show up on the farm and it's like
they'll do what they've always done.
If you want to eat, you gotta. If you want to eat, you gotta work.
There'll be OnlyFans, but in books.
Yeah.
Have we had that in history before? That'll be.
All right, let's jump to this next story from the Post Millennial. Breaking: Wisconsin Supreme Court temporarily suspends Judge Hannah Dugan after FBI arrest. They say the Wisconsin Supreme Court temporarily suspended the judge after she was arrested for facilitating the escape of an illegal immigrant from a courtroom. When Dugan learned that ICE was planning to arrest the defendant, Eduardo Flores, she got him out. Yep. Quote, "It is ordered in the exercise of that constitutional authority and in order to uphold the public confidence in the court of this state during the pendency of the criminal proceeding against Judge Dugan, we conclude on our own motion that it is in the public interest that she be temporarily relieved of her official duty. She's charged with a felony and a misdemeanor, and if convicted, could face up to 6 years in prison and a $350,000 fine." The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reports that typically in crimes of this kind of sentences are substantially shorter than the maximum. However, I will say the feds have like a 90+% conviction rate. Mm-hmm. So
you never take a case you can't win to court.
I think she's going to take a plea of some sort. Yeah. Unless she goes full resistance and then comes out, gets a microphone and says, "I will not let Trump, Hitler, blah, blah, blah." And then she makes $20 million in donations.
Yes. And then she becomes a member of Congress and whenever her sentence is up. Yeah. That's exactly what's going to happen.
No. She just runs in the midterm. Regardless of her sentence.
Yeah. I mean, this is Wisconsin. So she'll win. Magically, those votes will come in and she will win.
Is this a form of just toxic empathy? This type of, I understand that she's politically radicalized.
It's cult behavior. Yeah. Because the victims that were mercilessly beaten by this man were in court too. So it wasn't an issue of empathy. It was an issue of hatred. She hates Trump and the right so much that she wanted this man to escape to cause pain to Trump and his base.
Despite the fact that she was able to see the victims firsthand.
And the victims were waiting, and she ushered the guy out the back door to escape.
Also, anybody with half a brain now, like you said, she knows that she's going to turn into a hero here to the left. Yeah. She's going to make a lot of money, and she's going to become a member. I'm not even like, that's not even like hyperbolic. She's going to become a member of Congress.
She's going to hang out with that lady who testified against Kavanaugh during his hearing. What was her name?
It's just remarkable how evil these people are.
Lacey Ford.
Who were we talking to recently? I was talking to somebody, and they were talking about how they were surprised when they got into when they went from the private sector to the public sector, how instantly people they knew turned on them. And I was like, yeah, yeah, I've certainly experienced that too. This Christine Blasey Ford, was that her name?
Yeah.
Her story was psychotic nonsense. I have 2 doors on my house now because I'm scared. It's like, you have a back door and a front door? Like, what are we talking about? No, I had to create 2 front doors because I'm scared. Then a report came out, no, she split her house to Airbnb, one portion of it to make extra money. Then she goes, I've been afraid to fly ever since.
Yeah.
How'd you get here? I flew. Do you ever take a vacation? I do. How do you get there? I fly. What the? She's just lying. You get the E. Jean Carroll lady, where it's like 30 years later, she's like, Trump like brought me into the Bergdorf Goodman. Nobody was there for some reason, and we unlocked a dressing room door somehow, and I was wearing a dress from the future.
One of the things that I think is true about this is like these arguments are always very, very persuasive to normies, because when you ask the question, well, why would she lie? To a normie, they can't imagine a world where your politics are so insane that you would say something so blatantly not true for the sake of political gain.
Unless you said, well, she's far right, and she's lying because she's trying to trick the left. Oh, now I understand why she would lie.
It's like
Gotta call her right wing.
It's like a 6D chess.
Sixth dimensional. Back in multiversal time travel.
Who was the follow up to Blasey Ford? Remember they gave her a New York Magazine
and she
photo
claimed
shoot.
that was the one where she claimed that Kavanaugh was waiting outside of there was a line of men.
There was a train.
Yeah.
and they kidnapped women and put them in the room and then ran trains on them by waiting outside.
That is so insane that there
believe
was
it.
someone that tried to
Rewarded
Julie something?
behavior. I mean, she got the who did the photo shoot for her? Wasn't a famous photographer did the photo shoot for her for the New York Magazine,
Yeah, I mean, look,
the New Yorker or whatever.
I know you're right. It blows my mind, and especially when you like bring these things up out of context, and so that we can like think about them without being like steeped in the emotion of it. Now it's
The
like
moment when it was happening. Yeah.
that person literally tried to pass off the idea.
Julie Swetnick.
Yes, Swetnick. Pass off the idea that there were like running trains on kidnapped women in a college, like that was like the norm.
I want to see like a where are they now? Like I'd love to see does Swetnick go back to her regular job after that and then just go,
I mean, it all.
Remember there was another guy who claimed that he like raped a woman on a boat, and when the feds contacted him, he like recanted and got charged or something. They were just let me see if I can find this one.
It was absolutely insane, and again, all totally rewarded. All of this is rewarded. So, like for a normie who still has some morals and values, you think, oh, I'm going to get busted lying. But in these instances, it's like, hey, you can just get away. Look, you're going to get probably a book deal. Which didn't Blasey Ford get a book deal?
Probably.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, at least you'll be famous for a while. You get a couple of speaking gigs. You make some good money. Get out there, get taken care of. It's just unbelievable how this is rewarded.
It really is. Especially again when you look back on it and you think you go through the some of the claims and it was all because they didn't want this guy to be on the Supreme Court.
A guy claimed that he wrote a letter to Sheldon Whitehouse's office concerning a rape on a boat in August of 1985. And I think he ended up getting criminally charged for that. I'm not entirely sure. But this is the thing. They make these stories up. I've told this before. There are people that I've known that I consider to be really good friends from back in the day. I used to skateboard with them. All of a sudden, they're on X making up stories about me, tweeting at leftist podcasters who gleefully post this. It's a world of psychotic cult-like behavioral lies. So anyway, back to the main point. You asked a question, what is she doing this because of empathy? It's because it's a cult. Like really, these are low cognition people whose whole worldview is, oh, now's my chance to get something for me. I think they're evil. I was talking to Jack Posobiec, and I said, Jack, I'm not a Christian. The resurrection story really, it doesn't do it for me. But I'll tell you what does. Possession. You tell me these people are possessed by demons, and I'm more inclined to believe in your religion. And I'm not joking about that, because there are people that I know, that I've known my whole life, that all of a sudden have turned evil, and I can't comprehend how.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you say, that's even scarier. You say low cognition people. I'm like, well, she's a judge. Like, I used to imagine that judges were intelligent. But if you can be both a judge and psychotic, then that's insane.
I went to law school. There's a bunch of dumb people in law school. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to get through. You have to memorize enough stuff to pass tests. That's it.
Yeah, you need to know precedent. Kind of is one of the things.
That's it.
Yeah,
Literally. So there are like kind of cheat sheets, like Cliff Notes back in the day, but there's like 3-4 pages. They sell them. They're laminated in bookstores, most bookstores. So you can get like constitutional law, tort law, stuff like that. And my professors back in the day in law school were like, "Don't go get those." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to go get this then." And literally everything that was on the final exam was on a 6 to 8 page laminated thing, and that's the same stuff that's on bar exams. Doesn't take much.
That's so depressing.
Unreal.
That's so depressing.
Unreal.
And to your point about the story about when they talk about Brett Kavanaugh and suddenly he's in a dorm room and they're running trains on women and it sounds like a bad Hollywood movie, right? Like some crazy story. That's because politics it's Hollywood for ugly people.
They claimed that Brett Kavanaugh was party to these events where they would force women into a room. Men would line up outside the door, taking turns raping her while she's screaming and like everyone's just drinking and laughing about it.
Just unreal. Just so completely and totally unreal. And that was actually, I mean, granted, it didn't do what it was intended to do, which was prevent him from getting on the Supreme Court. So there was some, there were some reasonable people that were like, okay, this is nuts. But even still, like to think that's a moral way to behave, and then to do those kind of things, and then afterwards act as if you are the upright citizen of good character.
What was the next thing they tried doing to Kavanaugh?
I don't remember.
Kill him?
I mean,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There was a guy around his house, right?
Yeah.
Showed up at his house with tools to kidnap and murder Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
So when I see the ruling, sometimes I'm just like, you can see what they're thinking. Like Amy Coney Barrett is terrified. She comes in, she helps overturn Roe v. Wade. I'm pretty sure she was with the conservatives on that one. Yeah. Now she's just ruling liberal the whole time. Yeah, somebody got to her. And maybe it was the death threat against Kavanaugh with a guy showing up. She's probably thinking, it really just comes down to which horse you're betting on. You think Trump's going to win, you think he's going to lose. And if you think he's going to lose, you better play ball, otherwise they're coming for you.
And they'll keep doing it too, because one of the things is when you believe that fervently in almost a religious manner that what you're doing is right, you will start to believe that the ends justify the means, and that will justify them to do, whether it's lying about something that very clearly never happened in college at the expense of someone's reputation, or attempting to harm someone who you believe is politically opposite of you. If you believe that you are in the moral right there, and they do, they're willing to go above and beyond any all measure to do harm to them because they believe that what they're doing is cosmically justified.
Also, we don't know half the things that happen security-wise to these Supreme Court justices. We knew the one story about Kavanaugh. I mean, this is probably a regular thing that happens. These death threats come through, and if you're not used to them, it's so weird to be like, hey, I get them. When I'm over the target, I get them. It's fine. You conceal carry, it's fine.
Let me show you this post. I put this up a week ago, but it exemplifies this. It's from the Reddit thread, Change My View. A person will post an opinion and then say, argue against me. And they wrote, American conservatism is objectively a dangerous ideology, and those associated with it do not deserve a platform. Writing, conservatism is undeniably a dangerous ideology. It seeks to fundamentally destroy and undermine democracy, targets minorities, has led to authoritarian regimes, and has destroyed the U.S. economy more times than I have fingers on my hands. The far-right pro-capitalist system they seek to implement only benefits the rich while leaving the poor, middle class, and everybody else to rot. They also seek to destroy education and brainwash children to believe in their hateful ideas. Conservatism is not about freedom and small government. It's about control. Anybody who identifies as a conservative, or for that matter, even a moderate right-leaning person, should not get a voice. They are equally as guilty for the destruction of American democracy as Trump and his cronies. Enabling conservatives to speak their minds is dangerous and leads to more harm to minorities. Giving conservatives a voice further leads to fascism ideas being implemented. It's time conservatives shut their mouths, listen to the real experts, and see that their hateful, divisive rhetoric and views are leading to fascism before our eyes. Let me just summarize it real quick for you. Conservatives are a threat to democracy, so we must end democracy.
Yeah.
This person is clearly anti-capitalism.
That's what it is.
They're making an anti-capitalist argument and ignoring the fact that capitalism is the engine that has pulled more people out of abject poverty than any other system that we've ever had, and they're totally unaware of it. It's mind-boggling that people will make these arguments when they're literally sitting in a comfortable life because of things like capitalism and markets.
But do you know how infected our society is with this and this anti-capitalism?
It's bad.
Yeah. And like one of the things, not to like shout out my company here, but like one of the things that we work on is exposing all of these organizations and these like corporate oversight boards, like the Human Resources. Human Rights Council, who used to just do gay marriage. Now they do like corporate governance, and they give scores on how woke these and how DEI these companies are. And same with there's a thing called B Corps and B Labs. Our capitalist companies, our American-made companies, are going and just giving over their oversight to these crazy leftists with those ideologies.
Yeah,
It's wild.
Hollywood has done a very, very good job of othering the idea of the billionaire. It's one of these things where they've turned you into a supervillain no matter what, and they've turned you into some type of evil person. I was talking earlier this week, they're rebooting a show called Royal Pains from the USA Network back in like 2008. And in that show, there was lots of really, really rich people who had a concierge doctor in the Hamptons. And most of those rich people were portrayed as eccentric and weird, but generally good-hearted. And I said, they will never allow the ultra rich to be portrayed in any type of positive way right now, because they want to make sure that you as an average everyday person hold nothing but contempt for those who have made something for themselves and have built companies that employ thousands of people.
Yeah.
Well, it's just about destroying the system.
Yeah.
You look at everything that the Uniparty has given us over the past 30 years, and it was to gut and dismantle the United States. Let's jump to this next story from the Post-Millennial. Maryland man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. No, guys. They put Maryland men in quotes. Said to have been a gang member in 2018 court documents. Quote, she is dating a gang member. I think we have the images here. Jenny Taylor says, the New York Post has obtained court docs from 2018 showing Kilmar Abrego Garcia was being accused of gang membership by his wife's ex, and the father of her 2 kids. So let's pull up this document right here, which actually it's harder to read now. It says, motion and affidavit for, and then it's stamped over, filed. It says, 1, the undersigned party is acting to safeguard the children who are now in the physical custody of Jennifer Vasquez Sura, it says. It says the children are in serious danger because she tried, I'm going to read it verbatim, okay? She tried to kill herself and she left the kids with 11 year to take care of then. And I'm afraid of my kids live are in the danger because she is dating a gang member. I know these facts are true to be true because I was there and the police was there too. I have made the following attempts to notify Jennifer Vasquez Sura. Her response was, the court can't give you that custody of the kids because I have no idea what that says. Therapist told me. Is it meant to be therapist?
Therapist. Yeah.
I don't know. There's no H there. So
Sounds like I wrote this.
And well, there you go. So fascinating that this just keeps getting worse and worse for Democrats, that more and more evidence keeps emerging that this man is a gang member, and they kept defending him. They're going to keep defending him. And what I absolutely love, as I mentioned this the other day, but on the David Pakman subreddit, they were angry at conservatives saying something like, conservatives genuinely believe that Abrego Garcia is some gang member trafficking people and not just a family man who escaped El Salvador to be with his to protect his family. And it's like, why do you believe that? Why do the liberals believe that narrative? Because there's no evidence that's true. The only evidence we have is he's been stopped multiple times, accused of trafficking, accused of being in a gang numerous times, adjudicated as being a gang member. He's not from here. The media lied about him being a Maryland man, and they still believe this stuff.
They never would have known that the media lied because they never would have looked into it any deeper than the headline.
How long until they redefine what a gang member is? And they say a gang is like a festival of friendship.
Yeah, gang just means 3 people hanging out.
Yeah.
So he's a member of a friend group. I have a friend group. I'm a gang member now.
I don't think we're far from that.
I agree.
I saw West Side Story. Those are practically jolly.
They're out there snapping and dancing.
That's all it is.
Well, the definition of gang is an organized group of criminals.
Yeah, but who's to say what a criminal is?
Yeah.
I didn't think the Yang
Indeed.
Gang were a bunch
We're
of
all
criminals
criminals
back in the day.
You know, IJ walked earlier today.
Everybody,
right?
everyone breaks like 2 or 3 felonies a day, whether you realize it or not. So who's to say what's actually worse than another. You know,
I don't.
we should all just have compassion.
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier, the toxic empathy and toxic compassion from Americans who really do. I think a lot of it is just the average everyday person doesn't want to seem like they're not, sympathetic to other people.
The reason why I don't believe it is because I have friends who are liberals, and they post psychotic nonsense. And so I send them messages saying, hey, hope this helps. And they don't care. So it's not an issue of trying to empathize with someone, because if Kilmar Abrego Garcia is the bad guy, and there are, or how about we do this? The guy, the dude in the Wisconsin case, he's the bad guy. He mercilessly beat a man. I believe it was a man. There were women there as witnesses. I'm not sure if they were the victims, but let's just say he mercilessly beat someone. And Fox News said he punched him, struck him in the face like 40 times, and then strangled them. It is not empathy to let the bad guy escape. Is that a bee or a fly?
I don't know, but it's
Moving pretty fast for a bee. It's a fly.
Maybe. There's a bee that lives in here. It's probably dead by now, but it's just exploring for some reason. I got no beef with honeybees. Bees, they're all right. But anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah. They don't empathize. They simply seek to be a part of the cult.
Yeah.
So they will let villains escape so long as it's what the cult wants them to do.
I guess I see it more as like there's layers to this type of interaction, which is like you have the journalists who write the biased story, you have the influencers and the politically initiated who parrot the story, and then you have the average everyday person who only reads the headline, and their empathy says, well, why would he deport a guy from Maryland? And then they never look any farther into it, and those people vote too.
Yep.
That's my problem with it.
And they answer polls.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, I don't think anybody answers polls. I think it's fake. It's like the pollsters are sitting there and you're like, let's just say Trump's doing well.
It's like the people saying
When's the last time you got a poll?
the Nielsen ratings. I'm like, is that
To be fair, I get requests from civics all the time.
Oh.
Yeah. Civics will email me like nonstop. And I do them sometimes.
I think 2003 was the last time I got any kind of phone call or anything like that. Maybe I just have a lot go to spam.
You know why I don't answer now when I get the phone calls though, is because when I do, the only thing I hear is it goes like, shh, and then I hang up. I'm not kidding. Have you guys gotten those phone calls?
You know, my tell us when they say Timothy.
Oh yeah. No, but those phone calls that people have been getting where you answer it and it's just like a person speak. It's an automated Chinese phone call.
I have not.
I have not gotten.
You've never seen those?
No.
Yeah, big story. I was Chinese robocalls. So I just stopped answering my phone.
I only get American robocalls. American made. No, what's interesting here about these cult members, by the way, you see who goes to these Democrat rallies now. You see who's like lapping up the Bernie and the Tim Walz.
Real quick, sorry guys, look at this. This is from 2 weeks ago. North Carolina's Chinese Americans of robocalls posing as officials. It's been going on for some time. This is 2 weeks ago. The DOJ is warning about this. This is Trump admin.
I like the idea that we're going to get like Chinese Americans to start recording these calls now that we're bringing manufacturing back home.
We need Chinese robot. What were you saying?
Oh yeah. So you take a look at the people who go to these the Tim Walz events and the Bernie events. You talk these cult members. They're old hippies, right? And they're trying to relive their childhood. They're trying to be a part of something. When we've had it too good in this country for too long, and I know things are bad, but we haven't had a civil war. We haven't had some sort of major action in a long time, and they want to feel like they're a part of something. So it's much easier to get them into this cult because they feel like they're affecting change by getting out there and screaming about Trump.
And they've got, I'm sure, a little bit of guilt from how successful they are without... have you ever seen that picture that was going viral like around the time of the election? It was like the husband and the wife. They're out to this really nice dinner and they have their champagne glasses and they're like, these two boomers are voting for Kamala Harris this election. Ooh. And the top response is like, great, one more F you on the way out before they... like, that's what I think.
Did you see the poll for boomers in Canada? In Canada, they asked the different generations what their biggest concerns were in the election. And Gen Z said the cost of housing, the cost of food, good jobs. And the boomers said Trump. In Canada, the boomers were like, we're voting for the liberals because we hate Trump. And Gen Z was like, we need food.
And Social Security and like Medicare and stuff like that they will benefit from, but the kids will not. It is in Canada.
I'm saying this is... January, a bunch of articles came out about this demographic cliff because this is the beginning. 2007 is when people stopped having kids. Like the numbers tanked.
Look, all those kids were at the Minecraft movie. We'll be fine. Dude.
And the other thing I'm hearing too is that of the Gen Zers who are like around 18, 19 who do work, they have anxiety disorder. Yeah. They don't answer their phones. They're terrified. They're socially awkward.
Did you see the stories about kids bringing their parents to job interviews?
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's a thing.
That's a thing.
That's a thing.
They were bringing their parents to their job interviews.
How could you expect to actually get hired?
Some of my favorite people to watch on TikTok, if I'm watching it,
26% of Gen Zers brought a parent to a job interview?
Watch some of these TikTokers that are like hiring managers who have TikTok accounts that have huge followings because it's just them talking about the insane stuff that Gen Z is doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how you, as an employer, would say yes.
You just play along with that and let them go. I mean, I couldn't. You don't want to deal with somebody's family.
You think pronouns are bad? Come on.
I would probably be as mean as I could be, but in a way that wasn't too direct. You know, like if someone applied for a job and they showed up and their parent was there, I would not do something like, "You are pathetic, what a loser." I'd probably bust out laughing and then ask them where the camera was.
Berate their parent. You think this is okay? This is you teaching your child how to be independent and be an adult? You helping coming to the interview? You should be ashamed of yourself.
How do you handle that? Like, can you tell me what's really good about your son, sir? You know, just like, what are his best qualities? Does he clean his room?
Are you both?
Well, we
gonna
already
come
know
to
what your
work?
greatest weakness is. Let's move on from that question. I don't need to ask.
Are you both going to show up? Do I have to provide a desk for both of you? You know,
I mean, like if you just
No, you know what you do when they show up with their parent? You walk up and shake the parent's hand and then ask the kid to wait in the car.
go in the car, son.
Yeah, be like, "Thank you for coming. I'd love to hear what you can bring to this job." "Oh, no, I'm the parent." Sure. You kid, hey, wait in the car. We're going to talk about this job they're going to get.
Go on outside. Your daddy's going to talk to the.
Wow, how old are you? I'm 47. Really? And what do you do for a living? I'm a lawyer. You're hired. I mean, it's a low-paying entry-level job, but thanks for coming for the interview.
No, they don't do that anymore.
No, it's my son who's coming for the interview. What?
There is too qualified. So the 47-year-old lawyer going in for the job mopping up at the grocery store is not going to get the job. He's overqualified.
I'd hire him. I'd say, "You, sir, are hired." But it's my son who's here for the job.
We don't want
This wasn't even for like entry-level jobs.
jest.
These were for like jobs for people with degrees out of college, and they're bringing their parents to the job.
So Gen Z is developmentally disabled, and Gen Alpha doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Gen Alpha is projected to be between 40 and 48 million, down from Gen X is like mid-60s, Boomers are like mid-60s, Millennials are like 72, and Gen Z, I think, is like 69 million. Gen Alpha is supposed to be around 40 to 48 because millennials stopped having kids. Yeah. And then you've got Gen Z, developmentally disabled. And then you've got Gen Alpha, who just doesn't exist.
There's also a deep sense of nihilism amongst Gen Z where they just don't see a future for this country, and they don't really, it's like, quitters never lose. So why bother trying if the game has been rigged against you? And that's kind of my
Quitters
argument.
never lose.
But that's kind of my argument. Like, if you can say all you want that AOC can't win an election, whether it has to do with her voice or whatever it is, but when things get bad enough and somebody starts waving in front of you a catch-all solution that is the government, you have to be worried about something like that. Even somebody with a mediocre presentation can win if the population is desperate enough and the solution they're offering is all-encompassing, even if we know that that's a lie.
Yeah, and I don't think that Gen Z and younger will know it's a lie, because this generation's going to, this generation sees cars that drive for you, right? That's normal now. Like, not every car does, but it's normal to be like, "Oh yeah, my Tesla can drive for me." They're going to be the first generation that sees a significant amount of, actual humanoid robots walking around. 5 years, there are going to be a lot of humanoid robots walking around society doing things that used to be done by people. Within 5 years, it's going to be normal enough where people are like, "Oh," and the impression that they get is we don't have to work anymore.
It turns into Wall-E.
Exactly.
That's literally, yeah.
And then
exactly what because they're already talking about it. You hear people talking about that on Reddit, saying, "Oh, the super abundance is coming when the singularity comes, etc." They all have the notion that there's no point in trying, because in just a few years, just a handful of years, everything's going to be automated and you're not going to have to do any work.
Yeah, and then they'll just introduce the UBI.
Let's jump to this next story. Let's jump to the story from The Verge. Reddit bans researchers who used AI bots to manipulate commenters. Indeed, Reddit's lawyer called the University of Zurich researchers' project an improper and highly unethical experiment. So I was browsing Reddit, as I often do. I like to read what the liberals is doing. And I saw this post that said, it was like alerting people to, I think it was the Change My View subreddit, that researchers were using bot accounts to manipulate the opinions of people who are browsing by spam blasting them. This has resulted in this story where they've banned it. They say commenters on the popular subreddit Change My Mind. Pretty sure it was Change My View. Found out last weekend they've been majorly duped for months. University of Zurich researchers set out to investigate the persuasiveness of large language models in natural online environments by unleashing bots pretending to be a trauma counselor, a, quote, black man opposed to Black Lives Matter, and a sexual assault survivor on unwitting posters. The bots left 1,783 comments and amassed over 10,000 comment karma before being exposed. They say Reddit's chief legal officer, Ben Lee, says the company is considering legal action over the improper and highly unethical experiment that is deeply wrong on both the moral and legal level. I mean, guys, Reddit's all fake. These comments have been bots for a long time. We've known about this, that Democrats hired companies to tell people what to respond to other people. So what would happen is you'd go on like the Joe Rogan subreddit and Joe would say something interesting. And these liberal-leaning organizations hired staff to go in and comment specifically like, this is wrong and here's why, so that you constantly felt like you were on the wrong side of history to force public opinion. So them doing this is just them exposing what these companies have been doing forever.
You know, Tim, that's how they're going to take Superman down in the James Gunn Superman movie. Did you hear this?
Are you joking?
There's a rumor that Superman is going to fight online trolls and that Lex Luthor has mutant bot farms that go against Superman. Hashtag super shit. We just did a video on it today.
Is that how Brainiac is?
So hold on. So in the trailer for the new Superman, you see him like walking into the building and
they're
throwing stuff at him.
It could actually. I mean, I don't like. Again, this is a rumor. I have no idea if this is true. Yeah. But James Gunn, given the fact that he got fired from Disney because of people taking offense to his tweets, it'll be the greatest self-insert ever. And I know
he's making himself Superman.
My biggest complaint for this whole movie is that he's made the whole movie about him, and it's not even about Superman anymore. So this will be the biggest self-insert ever, as Superman has to take on online trolls. I'm just imagining like a world where Superman is like constantly dealing with Lex Luthor, the reply guy on X.
Bring back
in the movie, Superman is frustrated by social media backlash, with the hashtag super shit being mentioned several times as really getting under his skin. Meanwhile, in Lex's interdimensional world, hundreds of mutant monkeys are shown typing furiously at keyboards, flooding social media with hate against Superman.
There's monkey bot farms.
Okay, hold on. There's no way that's real, but I hope it is.
I hope it is.
So I will see that movie twice.
That would be amazing.
I'm telling you, I'm here for it. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yo, that sounds like something James Gunn would do.
Yes, it does.
And I seriously hope he did.
They did. I don't think people will like it. I will like it because it'll be hilarious. But they tried this with She-Hulk and it didn't work there. So I don't know if this is going to work.
It would make sense with the attitude Guy Gardner in it. Like kind of the good guy who doesn't care about the commenters because he's kind of a dick on his own.
Is he?
Yeah. He's like the nasty Green Lantern with the attitude.
Mr.
Is that why he has a bowl cut because he doesn't care what people think about him?
Mr. Terrific.
Sexy haircut. Yep, that's the.
Mr. Terrific would have a really good social media page.
He's the tech guy. This actually lines up if you look at the characters. I think that's. I mean, maybe not the monkeys, but I think this is real.
I don't know if Hot Girl has social media though.
She's just there because they need to
OnlyFans.
DEI it. Yeah, that's important. They're trying to shut down her OnlyFans at the same time.
That's right.
Whole cycle.
Oh no!
Lex is using the monkeys to mass report her account.
She was trying to not be a violent superhero, but because she lost all of her income from OnlyFans.
Think of the money you can make when you're immortal too, and you get reborn. You just start right over.
But there's like a period where you're old and you can't do it, so you can only do it like 20 out of 80 years.
Before that, she was doing just Playboy, and then as the generations go on,
didn't they change that story from they were reborn to they're aliens?
I don't know if that's...
Yeah, they're aliens now, right?
Actually, my favorite, by the way, if we're going to go down this nerd route, is Justice League Unlimited, which I think is probably the best DC product that's ever been made.
The cartoon?
Yep.
Cartoon.
It was, I agree, yeah. I mean, the Justice League show in general was some of the best iteration of those characters. Why are we talking about Superman
Because
fighting
bot
mutant-
farms.
Bot farms.
Bot farms. That's if bot farms can take down Superman, it can certainly take down Reddit.
Where did this rumor come from? MTTSH?
Came from AI.
Oh yeah,
actually.
no.
There's AI bots that
I
created that
pointed
to
out
convince you.
in the video. It's My Time to Shine Hello, which is extremely unreliable. I point that out.
Oh, you've got to pay for it too, ain't?
for it. Yeah.
Oh, please. I mean, please. I hope that is the plot.
I apologize for derailing everybody.
Don't apologize. That was actually good.
You brought us on the rails.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
on before then.
But look, I think dead internet theory is a real thing, and I think the internet's fake. And look, man, most of these podcasts people think are big are not big. I mean, not most, but a lot of them.
Yeah.
I just think that's where we're headed. Perception is reality, and I've been just looking at everything, because I know we've been talking about the demographic cliff quite a bit because it's on my mind, I guess. But I'm wondering if one of the results of population collapse is that we are going to automate everything. Have you guys seen the automated McDonald's?
Yeah.
It's like the robot arm like grabs the burger and then like drops it, and then it goes and like scoops the fries.
It's
Why not?
It actually, and a lot of that stuff. I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of times when they automate stuff like that, you're getting a better prepared product
And
more accurately.
You know who doesn't bring their parents to a job interview? Robots.
Robots don't. I mean, look, man.
Actually, to be completely honest, robots actually do 100% of the time. Like the guy who manufactures or owns the robots is doing the pitch as to why you should pay for their robots. It's like, this is the
stand
robot. I've
corrected.
made it. You should get it.
Is part of this also okay? So you're saying like that they're not like Gen Alpha aren't getting first time jobs in like entry level fields and
Gen Alpha?
or I'm sorry, Gen Z is not populating entry level jobs. Okay, right. So
And they like, so obviously there are Gen Z that are completely capable. Many of them work here. We've stolen all of them. There's 3. But no, of the millions, 69 million Gen Z,
Something like that.
many of them are not working. Many of them are not 18. There's a gap in this period because of the Great Recession, meaning you're going to find there's a dip in the age of 8, which is so weird. So when this happens, you've got what is Gen Z? It was 97 to 2012, I think.
is that what it is?
Yeah, I think that's what estimated range. So you've got kids are being born like normal. There is a declining birth rate, don't get me wrong, but relatively stable with a slight decline up till 2007. Then a massive fertility drop off. Then it slowly rebounds in 2010, 11, 12. So there's going to be a lot more 27, 26, 25-year-old Gen Z. And right now, relatively few 19, 20, 18, and then a lot of younger. There's going to be this weird drop off. It's a weird phenomenon. So right now, in this next couple of years, is where we're going to really get hit by this lack of 18-year-olds. Largely what this means is the universities are screwed. They're going out of business. The story I read earlier was a 180-year-old university went under because there's no one to enroll anymore. They build up this big infrastructure as population expands. They add new buildings. They add more professors, more jobs. Then there's less and less young people. There's more and more competition. Goes under. Liquidate the assets. Shut it down. This is what's crazy about it. This is the analogy I used this morning. If there is one shoe store, everybody's got to buy shoes, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say there's one shoe store and 10 people live in town. They go to the one place to buy the shoes, the shoemaker, the cobbler, he's good. Then one day, a bunch of people start moving into the town or people start having babies. Now you have 100 people in the town. Massive population boom. That one shoemaker can't cut it. He can only handle 10 shoes. So what happens? 9 more shoe stores pop open to provide shoes for all of the other people who live there. You now have 10 shoe stores. If you get an abrupt population collapse by 50% down to 50 people, it does not go down to 5 shoe stores. It goes to 0. Because what happens is you have all these shoe stores that are open, and if it's a short-term hiccup, those 50 people will split their resources among 10 different shoe stores. They'll all fall short of the money they need to survive by 50% and go out of business simultaneously. You may go down to one shoe store, you'll get shortages, but this is what happens with fixed infrastructure. So what we're looking at right now, we're going to see it's going to be Detroit times 10. I suppose we'll see.
All because of a lack of actual manpower of
But lack of manpower also means lack of economic stimulus in general.
Yeah.
People who aren't working also aren't buying things. But you know what I see from this, and why I loop it back into the bot farm stuff. The end result really does feel like it's going to be live in the pot and eat the bugs. Mm-hmm. Like look, the restaurants out here that are closing because they can't find labor, they're going to be like, yep, the only food we have to feed you now is going to be oatmeal and, pea protein because lack of labor. The robots can make oats and peas, but we can't really, no more delicious sushi. Sorry. That's too complicated for the robots. But if you plug into the Neuralink, you can eat whatever you want. You put the Neuralink headset on, you go into VR world, and you will eat a smorgasbord of everything you've ever wanted.
What other industries would be hit the hardest? Because I guess when I was thinking about this, you're talking about how they're not able to find employees. And then I think back to when I was that age, and it was more that the boomers weren't retiring. And you had a generation of people who weren't finding careers after going to college because they got their degree, but nobody was retiring, so there were no positions for them. And it's now we're at the opposite end of that.
Man, it's such a big picture and it's so hard to see everything. But a lot of Gen Z are developmentally disabled. And I'm not saying it to be a dick. I'm saying they have social anxiety disorder. They are hikikomori. They don't want to go outside. They don't know how to get jobs. They live at home. They're in their early 20s. Failure to launch. It's happening to a lot of Gen Z. What happens when the boomers die? And we're 10 years or so away from a major mortality cliff, which is what they're calling it. Boomers are going to drop down to an estimated 20 million in the next in 10 years because they're hitting life expectancy.
Yeah.
These older Gen Z whose parents are either older like Gen X or younger boomers, they're not going to have anyone to feed them. They're not going to have a source of income. If all you're doing is sitting at home playing video games, you're not getting a job and it's failure to launch, sooner or later those resources go dry. What happens?
I mean, I would like to think that hoping against hope is that the failure to launch is also the parents. There's the discussion about whether, I don't necessarily agree. I don't agree that you should just kick the kids out at 18, right? Which is something that's happened to a lot of people. But also, like, if the parents die and they don't have anybody protecting them anymore, then by their own nature, they have to go and make something happen. Otherwise, you can't just lay there and die. So they have to go do something for themselves. And maybe that allows them to grow up in a way that their parents aren't allowing them to do now because they are in the safety of their home.
There's going to be a lot of the crisis of competency is going to be massive. There's going to be a lot of
we're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been saying we have a managerial crisis for a long time. I've been talking with other people who run businesses, and there is a managerial crisis. I don't know what happened, but it may be that there's not enough young people, or this gap in this age demographic because of the financial crisis has been persistent in terms of training as well. There's not enough people to have been taught these jobs. So let's go hard analogy. Doesn't apply 100%. Let's say you've got 10 brackets. 10-year-old, 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50, 60, 70, 80. And, at 30, a person is now a master of their profession. At 40, they're training a 20-year-old. The 20-year-old becomes a master of their profession, turns 40, trains a 20-year-old. Let's say you drop all of the 20-year-olds. The 40-year-old goes, I have no one to train. So they keep working, and this gap persists. The next group, 10-year-olds, move up 10 years into that bracket. There is now no one to train them. When you have this, so I think we may be facing this managerial crisis because the forced retirements during COVID meant that people were leaving without training their replacements, and you have a demographic drop-off. So you have substantially less people to learn the trade and an abrupt firing, which resulted in people not training the trade. And now you have businesses that can't hire people. They're failing to run and they're shutting down. And then, of course, you have jaded Gen Z. You've got the developmentally disabled ones who are suffering from social anxiety disorder. They can't answer the phone. They can't talk to people properly. And then you have others that just think it's pointless. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of Gen Z that are moving to the right that are reportedly finding Jesus and Christianity. And so they're gonna survive. They're going to make it work. They're driven to do so. But these other ones, I don't know what happens.
Well,
But I will tell you, people don't just roll over and die.
But
So-
how would this have happened prior to this generation, right? You said like a 40-year-old trains a 20-year-old. Can you give me an example of like, because when I think of this, I don't think of them. I don't think of them as training someone and then leaving. I think of what we talked about in my generation was the boomers never retiring. So you train someone to then never leave your job anyway. So
That's part of the problem. That's why I'm saying it's not necessarily one for one. I'm trying to highlight that this is a problem. It's granular, and it will have a percentage-based effect on the market. So if normally an older generation trains a younger generation, but now you have abrupt retirements and you have less of that generation, we might see, what does that result in? 7 to 8% economic downturn because there's not enough people to run these jobs.
Yeah.
The demand will return if the generations after are inflated, but Gen Alpha is half the size of millennials. It's like a little bit more than half. So there's going to be no demand and no labor.
Yeah.
So you will live in the pod, you will eat the bugs. Let's jump to this next story from the New York Post. Ozempic Wegovy took my vision, says grandma of 11 and New Jersey man, as more users report devastating side effect. The story is quite simple, my friends. People are reportedly going blind from taking a drug to make them lose weight. My understanding is all the drug does is make you vomit. I don't know. Am I wrong about that?
It suppresses your appetite.
Yeah, doesn't it slow down your digestive system?
Yes, but like, how does it suppress your appetite?
I've heard other things that it actually does affect your ability to what? So I've heard that it actually works to help make you more disciplined. If you have cravings for alcohol, it helps with that. If you have cravings for nicotine, it helps with that. So it's not just about
It
food.
slows down how fast food leaves your stomach, making you feel full longer after eating.
They call it, Phil, they call it intrusive food thoughts, like people who eat late at night.
This is it really is crazy to me that there are people who can't just, like, they have no control over their bodies. No, like for real, like honestly, there are a lot of people, and I know it's normal, but I just don't comprehend this, that are like, I wish I didn't eat that food, but I'm gonna eat it anyway. And it's like, have you considered just not doing that?
There are a lot of people that think that discomfort is something to be avoided at all costs.
That's not what I mean. I'm saying that there are people who quite literally go, I wish I wasn't eating this pizza right now. And I'm like, just put it down.
But the thing that's
don't eat
making
it.
them continue to eat it is they want to. They have the desire, and to say I'm not going to indulge that desire, which is
Wait, this is my point. They have no control over their bodies. They're like, help me, please. I can't. My hand. It's making me drink this.
Well, you have to add in all the steps to go to the store to buy it or order it as well. I mean, there are multiple levels to this. 2 weeks ago, I just did I went for a 72-hour water fast and made it 88 hours. I know I got to get my stuff together. It's just a mental game. And, if anybody out there is thinking about it, again, like it's literally just all in your head.
Water fast?
Water fast. So all you do is drink water for
Oh.
72 hours. And
For a second, I thought you meant like you fasted.
no, I would drop dead.
Water. Yeah, right.
No,
I'm
that's
like, wait, what?
that's the opposite. No.
I'm an idiot.
But no, I mean it's very good for you. I saw nothing negative about it. I feel like, for me in particular, I'm overweight right now, and I think I could probably go, if healthily done, a couple of weeks, and your body's energy. So
They say that when you fast, the first thing your body does for energy when it goes for stores, it takes damaged cells. It breaks down. Yep. So I think Ian always talks about it, apoptosis. No, that's something else. Autophagy. There you go. Serge has got me. He's got me. Apoptosis is when bad cells get destroyed by the body, and autophagy is when your body consumes the energy from bad cells, which makes you better. And caloric deprivation increases lifespan.
Well, and you realize very quickly that, around day 3, it's all mental. Day 3, you wake up and it's like, oh, it's just another day. I'm eating because of habit.
I'm not saying that. Look, if there's somebody who's overweight, if you're overweight and you're like, whatever, I don't care. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's crazy to me that there are people who are like, I wish I wasn't so fat, but I'm going to eat anyway. I know I will inject myself with this drug instead.
There are people who have taken out like massive loans to be able to pay for their Ozempic and their Wegovy prescriptions.
There was, I don't know how far and wide this interview went, but Sharon Osbourne was on Ozempic.
Oh, yeah.
And she did an interview with, who was it? The comedian.
It like destroyed her body, though.
Yes.
Like
Her body basically didn't restart.
Yeah.
And so she wasn't able, her body wasn't getting the calories it needed, and she looked like death.
Yep.
That's crazy. Today, like my problem is getting enough calories when I'm skating or exercising. So I took like a third cup of rice flour, poured water in it, stirred it up, microwaved it, put peanut butter on it, and just jammed it down my throat. Because otherwise I don't get the calories when I'm skating. I have the inverse problem. I don't understand. People are going blind. Yeah. And this is a known side effect. And they're like, whatever, let's do it anyway.
Well, it's from decades of the commercials for any medication. It says these side effects, and it lists the worst things that could have ever happened to a person. And
Lump in your neck.
And these things are now advertised. We were at the mall recently, and there were ads for Ozempic as a weight loss medication, not as a diabetes medication, which is what its actual labeled use is for. And, you know, people these days, they look at that. They look at the easy fix, and it's a generation of kids. The other thing that I thought was interesting about it is, like, you've got a whole generation of kids raised on Adderall who never ate that much growing up anyways. Then they go off the Adderall, and they're like, holy crap, food tastes great. They look for another medical solution.
I'm going to throw this in code so I don't violate any rules, but could you imagine if the thing from a couple of years ago, they told everybody it made you lose weight at the same time?
They're like...
the problem is... what's his face? Who was the mayor? De Blasio was like, look at these delicious French fries. Look at this cheeseburger. Oh boy, you can have one of these too. It is. Look, I can understand like if you're addicted to a drug or smoking, but I just don't understand
that type of eating hits the same pleasure center in the brain.
Yeah. But it feels to me like you're possessed.
The best way that I can
like, how do you not control yourself?
The best way that I'd ever found to describe like wanting a cigarette when I was like relating it to someone else, it's like being hungry. When I was really wanted a cigarette, the closest thing that I could describe it as is like being really hungry. And without the stomach pains, but it's still a very similar, just like, man, I really want to eat that, whatever. It's like, it's the same kind of like motivation.
Then you
ever hear that book that's like, you know, this book, what is it called? It's like, this book will make you quit smoking or something.
There is a book called that. Yeah, I'm not.
And like, it actually tells you to smoke while you're reading it. By the time you're done, you'll never have another cigarette. And I've heard people swear by it, like it works.
I don't know, man.
And then you get into like Gen Z talking about, look, I'm never going to own a home. My life is going to be miserable. So their idea of splurging now is to buy good food and like go to the grocery store and buy good food. So a lot of it is that food is used, you know, they talk about eating emotionally.
This is why they're not getting houses.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably never going to, you guys see that viral clip from Boy Meets World? Where Topanga and whatever everybody knows her name because Corey, there you go. I don't know his name. He was like, the house is $80,000 and you'll need $4,000 down. He's like, where are we going to get $4,000? It was something like that. It was like a really cheap house. And this was in the late 90s. Now it's like a Gen Z couple, you know, they're like 23, 24. They're getting married. They want to buy a house. Well, the down payment on this house is $100,000 and it's $500,000 if you want to live in your town where you work. It's like, okay, I can't do that. I could, you know, like we're in the middle of nowhere out here and the houses are like $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're not going to own a house.
So I'm going to go and buy good food instead, because if I'm going to be renting for the rest of my life, then damn it, I'm going to eat well while doing it.
Yeah.
You know what, man? Or you just don't and you save your money.
It's hard for people.
Like
you know, they can't control themselves.
I think it's entirely orchestrated, to be completely honest, because there's no way all of these things I feel could be an accident, right? You've got the Democrats. I would say it's the uniparty establishment saying, "Don't have kids. It's bad for the environment. The world is overpopulated. Don't have kids." Then you get a financial collapse. Oh no, now you can't have kids. Better not. Then you have go have an abortion. Just have abortions. Don't have kids. Then you have TV shows like Michelle, what's her face? I don't remember her name, but she had the Netflix special where she was like, you get an abortion and you get an abortion.
Oh, yeah, Michelle Wolf.
Wolf, that was her name. You have all of these things.
Shout your
Then you have YouTube promoting van life. Remember that viral trend of van life where they were like, look how great it is to live in a van. It's the best thing ever.
All those
and then
people
there was
had email jobs. Those vans cost as much as some starter homes.
But they were trying to, indeed. But to be fair, I built the van that I had. I think it was like $35,000. So it's not like it's cheap, but it's not a house.
No.
Right? And then you get a big social push saying, why don't you go live in a van down by the river? And young people all wanted to do it. And many pursued it. And it is really funny to see how many people tried it. And then afterwards, they were like, I was miserable and it was the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
Like, you lived in a car, dude. What did you think it was going to be like?
He's like, I didn't realize I wasn't going to be able to sleep in any parking lot I wanted anytime and that they were going to be chasing me off places.
The seventh night in a row of a cop banging on my window with a billy club telling me to move along or I'm under arrest was when I realized this actually doesn't work.
I do believe, though, that a lot of the resentment comes from, like, whether it's millennials or Gen Z and their parents be like, don't buy that coffee or you're never going to be able to own a home. And you're like, the home is $500,000. My $7 coffee isn't putting a dent in that, even if I do it every day for the next 20 years.
If they put $7 into Bitcoin every day for 20 years, they own a house.
That's a different conversation entirely.
So you're telling me, by the way, that you don't like, have you ever seen the plus-size park hoppers?
Oh,
The plus-size park hoppers?
Nope.
And have been suggested to me on Instagram every day.
you have to look up plus-size park hoppers.
No, because then it's going to start spam blasting.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah. Well, they are a friend sizes 2X to 5X that show you inside Disney parks whether or not you can fit, not just in rides, but in restaurants where, like, you get concerned, like, are there arms on the chairs that I won't be able to fit in to eat?
They're putting like the thing over them to see if they fit. It's
You know what? I got to be honest. At this point, anybody who, like, I feel like most informed people who are paying attention and care about themselves would not care if Trump intentionally collapsed everything as a purge. Trump's just looking around. He's like, it's a bunch of lazy, degenerate, overweight filth. He burns the economy. Like, he has no interest in America. It's literally just, he's going to create his Ubermensch just by destroying the economy. That's it. Destroy the economy, close the border, and then anybody who survives deserves to.
But please, if it's the segment from the plus size park hoppers called "If I Fits, I Sits" that does it, I need to know. Just anybody please just let me know. White House.
To be fair, though, the morbidly obese can survive a long time without food.
Absolutely.
So water and vitamins.
That your plan that you just proposed by Trump, that's like the ultimate meritocracy.
Like, I'm
collapse
kidding, by the way.
everything.
But, it would be funny if Trump's just like looking around at a Gen Z that won't work to save their lives, millennials that won't have babies to save the country, morbidly obese homeless people, and he's like, maybe we need some depression.
All I need to do is stroll through the streets of D.C. I mean, there was a guy on the metro that I forget his name, but he was a naked, morbidly obese guy that just people knew was showing up on the metro for a long time in Washington, D.C., and they wouldn't remove him.
Why wouldn't they remove him?
He's probably too big.
Too big.
And also, like, he was literally naked. Like, he never wore clothes. It was just a very large...
And he just lived there?
Yes.
Too big to fail.
Man, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I feel like if social order completely collapsed, then it's largely the Trump side of things that would make it through all right.
Yeah, because they know that your groceries don't come from the grocery store.
Indeed. Yeah. Or they have backyard chickens, and that's it.
I mean, not just that, like, there'll be plenty of them that do go shop at the grocery store that just still understand the importance of hard work and that nobody's coming to save you. And even if they don't necessarily have the chickens in the backyard or are farming, they understand that it's pointless to argue about whether it's right or wrong for the world to be so cold, but just accept that it is and push forward pragmatically.
It's funny because I've had this conversation probably like, and you guys probably have, but for 10 years now, I've talked to a bunch of people. I did an interview with some survivalists. I think it was like 10 years ago, and I asked them, what do you think would happen in the event of like social collapse? Which political faction would survive? And these guys were actually they were like moderate, urban, liberal, but more like where we are, not far left, crazy woke. And they were like, oh, they're right in 2 seconds. They were like, I mean, just come on. Yeah. These tend to live in rural areas already. Tend to live far away from gas stations and stores, tend to stock up on supplies more than when you live in a city. You have no groceries in your fridge. You walk downstairs. Like if you live in New York, you could literally live above a restaurant.
more likely to know somebody who knows those skills in the book that they're going to have to go and find.
Yeah.
You know,
If not know it themselves.
I'll tell you one of the best places I ever lived. It was brief, but above a Subway. Every morning you wake up to the smell of fresh Subway bread. And then I walk downstairs and I get my sandwich made for a couple bucks. It was great.
Make sure Jared doesn't sneak into your room at night.
Gross. Gross.
That was never a thing. He wasn't going to sneak in your room.
He couldn't have fit anyway.
You were too old.
Well, he lost.
You were living on your
Gets
own.
worse.
You were living on your
It gets worse. All right, we're going to go to your chats, my friends. So smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. Don't forget, the Uncensored Call-In Show is coming up in about 30 minutes. You don't want to miss it. It's not so family friendly, but it's always fun and funny. And you, as members of the Timcast Discord, get to call in and talk to us. But in order to watch, you got to be a member of Rumble Premium. Use promo code Rumble. Promo code Tim10 at rumble.com to get $10 off your annual membership. All right, we got Badmouth Bandit. He says, I'm a millennial journeyman, tool and die maker. Learn from a boomer. It is one of the most overlooked trades that has died out, and we need more. I hope I have some younger people to pass the trade on.
And beyond just the skill set itself being useful in the real world, one of the greatest markets you can be in right now if you're looking to create social media content is any type of niche skill. Makes for, like, you do huge numbers, not just on TikTok, but YouTubers and stuff who have, like, cobblers, right? Or anything, woodworking, stuff like that.
If you're an electrician and you do, like, really, really clean installs of wiring and stuff, people want to see it.
All right. Happy Garan says, did anything ever come of the idea of buying the Lenin statue for your chickens to poop on? I think we briefly explored it and then basically abandoned the idea. That's why I was like, guys, don't give us any money for this. We don't know if we can do it. But I do love the idea. Maybe we should put together a give, send, go to raise the funds to buy it and then donate it to a gun tuber.
Is there if there's an artist or sculptor in the Discord that could actually sculpt one for you?
No.
No?
Make
a lot of
statue.
work.
And to make a statue of Lenin? Now, how about you make a statue of Trump spanking Lenin? And then we put it up in City Square somewhere. Like we done it to a city. No, you know what we do? We make Trump spanking Lenin, and then we sneak into New York in the middle of the night and drop it off in front of the bull. You know how they did that with the girl defying the bull? That's still there.
I can't believe that. It's so idiotic.
Yep.
What one is
There
that?
are no men in New York that would just put their foot down and say, no, ladies, you can't put the girl in front of the bull.
Is that like on Wall Street or something?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Like just north of Wall Street. All right. Commander says, hey, Tim, if you have a chance, I think you all with Phil should look into the song lyrics for the song Toxic by Starset, as it is what you have been saying for months. Indeed. All right, we'll take a look. Shane H. Water says, oh no, the cheap knockoff Chinese items on Amazon are going to cost more. Whatever will we do? I guess we're just going to have to buy the legit products.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about how the White House was responding to the idea of Amazon putting the information about the tariffs and stuff. And I mean, personally, my first thought was I don't have a problem with Amazon making it clear when you're buying a Chinese knockoff. I don't have a problem with that at all.
I saw a car commercial the other day when they said our cars aren't affected by I forget what I think it was Toyota. They're not affected by tariffs. And at the very end they go because they were made in the United States. And it was like, why don't you just say American made?
Yeah.
American made.
It's a way better selling point.
It was so weird how it was framed.
All right. Alpha Turkey says Fallout show is the way to do it, not Last of Us.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing about The Last of Us is, so I was looking at the reviews today. There were a bunch of reviews from people who never played the game. And there's like boomers, and they're angry that Joel dies because they did not play the game. They didn't know that the game basically ruined the whole story.
Or have just never been online ever a day in their life. Because if you have, you would have known that happens, even if you haven't played the game.
I mean, look, if you're 60 years old and you're watching, it was on HBO or whatever.
Not Joel. I need my Pedro Pascal.
I'm terrible casting choices. What are they thinking?
Okay, here's the thing. He is overcast and everything. You are 110% correct, but the only reason that first season had any emotional resonance at all was because he did a fairly good job of being an average to above average actor. He is just overexposed.
What were they thinking with casting Bella Ramsey?
Is that the they them? She goes by they.
Does she?
Yes.
Ah.
She does.
So annoying.
You don't have pretty girls anymore. Do you?
Was the first game super woke? My understanding it was not.
No.
The second game was super woke, though.
It was the second. There's a YouTuber named Greg Owen who does a great video dissecting the second game and how it could have been improved upon to make the show better. He had a video a couple weeks ago. I recommend everyone checking that out.
You know, I watched season 1, and I wanted to finish the season because it's a cultural item, but the gay sex scenes that were in it that weren't in the game, I thought was gratuitous and strange.
Well, and it just brought the whole thing to a stop, right? It wasn't integrated in any sort of way that felt like they were writing it to actually move the story forward. It just
edited gratuitous.
Episode 3, and then it's just bam, and everything stops.
And I just want to stress that's not in the game.
Yeah.
They were like, we're going to deviate from the game storyline to give you a whole episode just literally about gay sex. Mm-hmm. It's not from the game.
But it's not just
what?
not just that episode. It was also like episode 7 in the mall in season 1 also brought it to a grinding halt.
Also not in the first game.
Yeah.
It was like the bonus after game or whatever, where it's like, did you know that Ellie is gay?
If you want to watch a fantastic show based on a video game, you watch the Twisted Metal series on Peacock. That show is
Really?
amazing. Oh yeah.
When did that come out?
Last 2 years ago. The new second season comes out like next month or something.
Oh, I should watch that.
Yes,
I
it's
didn't.
good.
Really? Yeah. I never even checked that one out.
I got
Because
into
nobody
Fallout.
watches Peacock.
I really liked Fallout. Anything
Fallout
with
was
Walton
good.
Goggins right now, other than White Lotus. I meant.
No, you go watch Justified.
Fallout was good.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Yeah. There you go.
If you want Walton Goggins, it's Justified as Boyd Crowder.
Or Baby Billy and Righteous Gemstones.
The funny thing is, there was an article from Collider that said that it's being review bombed, but it was like the review bomb isn't isolated to Rotten Tomatoes. And then I'm like, guys, if every review aggregator is negative, it's probably because the show sucks. But, you know, they were like, people are just targeting minorities and women. You're basically saying a bunch of white guys went online with nothing better to do to just spam your show that it sucks. Maybe it's just a bad show. All right, what have we here? Emerito Barrio says, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are? For the last time, no.
Have you ever watched those old commercials?
What's the reference?
Have you ever watched those old commercials? Yeah. It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
I watched them when I was a kid.
Yeah. Watching back now, it's crazy. It's like your parents just forgot you were there.
It was
They needed a TV commercial to remind them that you existed.
And Home Alone.
That's weird.
And Home Alone.
It was really, especially during the holidays. Don't leave your kid at home, you know?
Twice.
I mean, the best part is like they come home in the first one and they just kind of leave immediately and go into the kitchen. Like no.
Wasn't the second one like he got on the wrong plane or something?
Yeah, he got on the wrong plane and like that's another one. Pre 9/11 air travel where they're like he's running into the like where you get on board and he knocks all the tickets out of the lady's hand. They're like, board him. Just let him go.
Look, I've been saying I want to do this forever, but we just need like a good producer because I'd love to make short films just mocking these movies. Because if you did Home Alone today, it would be so funny. It would be like, she gets on the plane and then she goes, Kevin! She freaks out. The next scene is her being arrested with like child services coming and taking the kids away, all of them. And she's crying and they're like, disgusting. And it's just like, that's the end of the show, you know.
Also, don't forget here, if 9/11 would have happened, Kevin would have been
It would have
okay.
been fine. It would have been fine.
Yeah.
It's like Ryan Coogler is going to be bringing the X-Files back, and I just laugh because it's like, I see an alien, click, and then they just have the photo, and he's like, oh. Though you could write around that. You could be like, the alien has some type of like armor
Every
or plate
time.
that stops it from showing up on phones.
Well, no, but like X-Files,
Predator.
X-Files was a bunch of different, it's an anthology, right? It was a bunch of different things. So it's like the FBI guy goes, we have a report of a strange beast seen in, Northern Virginia.
Don't go watch the Jersey Devil episode.
And we're gonna go check it out. And then it's the guy is like every time he tries to film the monster, and then his phone he drops it in the lake. No, the proof. Then the next episode is like there may be someone was found exsanguinated with 2 bite marks in their neck. We think it might be a vampire. And it's like, was there any photos? No. And then it shows the scene of the vampire getting the guy, and the vampire bites the phone. Dang it, my phone! Every time
They solve it by somebody just realizing to upload to the cloud.
default uploads.
Stream it.
Every single phenomenon also breaks your phone no matter what it is.
Yeah.
It's an alien ship comes, your phone vaporizes. The Mummy has the ability to levitate cell phones. Vampires emit electromagnetic pulses, which disable
I'm
cameras.
saying like a good writer could actually write around that. The fact that the meme version of the show is like, I'm gonna get it this time, and every time it gets knocked out of his hand.
You can never have a witness.
Nope.
Or you can just do a short modern version where it's like, hey, Scully, we got a report. Someone was found exsanguinated with 2 bite marks in the neck. Mulder, are you saying it's a vampire? Yeah, there's a video of it. Look.
The thing is, now
okay.
with social media being what it was, people wouldn't believe it because they just think that it's faked somehow. Because nobody,
AI. It's
nobody
AI.
wants
To be fair, that's actually how you write around it.
Yeah.
So they have the video and they're like, none of this is admissible. None of it proves anything because it's probably just fake. Yeah. And they have to go and see for themselves.
Mulder's gonna have to wear a body cam.
Are they bringing Mulder back?
I think that him and Scully will make appearances, but it'll likely be passing it off to new agents.
What about the smoking man? Is he still alive?
I don't remember what happened. Remember they brought it back in 2016,
Yeah.
from 2016 to 2018, but that was
He's still alive. I'm going to buy a pack of Marlboros on the way.
that actor is still alive, William B. Davis.
All right. Trevin Lane says the U.S. supplies roughly 1/3 of the world's grain supply. We are largely food self-sufficient as well as energy independent. It is manufacturing that is a big issue as we have exported it to the CCP.
Well, you did say we'd be eating oatmeal.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Corn. I ordered some of Cousin T's gluten-free pancakes, and it's corn flour.
Yeah, that means you're going to have grits.
Sounds really good, actually.
Grits are great.
Sounds very good. I've been putting Cousin T's syrup on. Look, I'm the dad, so I'm in charge of breakfast, which means waffles. It's all I can make. I mean, I could probably make something else, but I don't want to. So what I figured it out though. So what I'm doing is 4 eggs, lots of eggs, and then I'm just mixing up the grains that I use: almond flour, maybe some rice, maybe some cassava, different. So it's not always the same thing. It's just the same shape.
Not an omelet guy?
No,
No?
because you need some kind of grain or fiber. You know what I mean? So you do some almond. We used chickpea flour the other day. Lower carbs, higher protein, higher fiber. It's great. And then we just schlop some Cousin T's blueberry syrup all over it.
Nice. I got chickpea pasta. It's great.
It's good stuff.
Great.
Yeah, we actually we deep fried chicken in chickpea batter. Super crispy and good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. All right. Well, what have we here? OMG Puppy says, Tim, if you have chickens, you can make gunpowder. Look up niter beds. Is that what that is? From chicken poop? Indeed. So when the world ends, chickens will be the most valuable thing ever. Phil Dude Bro says, if you need a shirt, go to Goodwill. There is so much we can reuse.
Goodwill's so expensive now, though.
Yeah.
They've caught on to people, and there's
hipsters.
resellers and stuff, and so
Ever since the phone in your pocket, now they look up the price of everything on eBay, and half those Goodwill sell on eBay as well.
I remember when I was a teenager, I found a pair of like $500 blue jeans at a thrift store. What were they called? Salvation Army. It was a Salvation Army.
I found a copy of Turtles in Time at a Goodwill.
ooh,
Nice.
Interesting. Let's see what we got here in the old Rumble Rants. Pecora Rod says, Dan P. here. Do you think we can get more America First congressmen in during the midterms and have them put into law many of Trump's executive orders? Possible.
All depends on the economy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like our chances in the midterms right now.
Nope.
Shadow says, must read, skateboard that says be gay, use the left lane. So the idea was, the left has that meme, be gay, do crime.
Yep.
So I was like, I'm going to make a skateboard that's just white with black bold letters saying don't be gay, which is the inversion of that. But obviously that's considered offensive. And so my point is, how come they can make merch and sell it? Nobody cares as be gay, do crime. Even the conservatives are just like, whatever. But if I were to make a skateboard that don't be gay, you'd know they'd lose their minds. So then, Andy was like, do both. Make one that says be gay. And I was like, oh, it's like, give the people a choice.
You can only sell them as a pack. You have to buy both.
That way everyone's, look, we made it for everybody. So now everybody will like us. Yeah, it would be a black board with all white writing saying be gay. And then I did a poll saying which board graphic should we make? Don't be gay or be gay? And obviously don't be gay wins. But everyone agreed that we would sell out instantly. If we made like 1,000 of them, they just instantly would all sell out. People would hang them on their walls.
Yeah, they would.
Maybe. All right. Pinochet says they do understand that 3 out of 5 people would rather take out the establishment with violence as opposed to stand with the establishment in protest. What's a question? Well, I don't know what the far left would do. They just hate Trump. They hate the right. All right. Evan Freya says, what are y'all's thoughts on the meme coins that were done by Trump for him and for Melania? Largely don't care, so I don't talk about it. I'm indifferent.
I would have avoided it, optics-wise.
I think I have some.
Yeah.
I don't buy merch for anybody ever.
I don't either.
I have some stock. I have like 13 shares of Truth Social because I thought it was funny. And then what the left does, because they lie, is they were acting like I had thousands of shares, or I spent like hundreds of grand on Doge. I was like, or I'm sorry, not on Doge, on Truth Social. I was like $100. It was like, oh boy, I can have like a little souvenir. I'll buy it. And they were like, haha, look, you're losing your money. And I was like, bro, I lost like $20. I lost $100 the moment I bought them. It's worth nothing. I don't know.
I bought like $1 of Mudang coin when Mudang came out. I'm down to like 43 cents.
I kind of wish that I got in early on Mudang coin.
Mudang coin. Spike says, get bullets, gold, and canned tuna. Same as the sword, jewel, and mirror. When I was talking about setting up a shed, I was largely thinking of having like generally books for production, but making like a sewing machine, probably a wood splitter, like maybe like a gear powered hand crank something. So you just, it spins and it goes back and forth. You put the wood in and then it goes and splits it.
Yeah.
Gear ratios, man, and pulleys, all that stuff. And then probably a kiln, what is it? A crucible.
Yep.
Actually, we have a crucible and a kiln. Yeah. And then, make stuff.
If things go under, I'm just going to be a criminal. I have no viable skills other than stealing, so that's what I'm going to go with. Trickery.
Criminal's way more dangerous than you think if that kind of situation.
Yeah, because in a social collapse, con man isn't a thing. So it's basically barbarian or,
Well, I lose.
Civil, like either you...
Just let me run with this idea and be done quick. In the
fair enough. Fair enough. You're like looking for the fast exit. I see you.
If anybody's looking for a good show about the end of the world that they might not remember, it was called Jeremiah. I think it was like Showtime back in like 2004. Very, very good. I recommend watching that.
So
one. Better than The Last of Us.
What is Twisted Metal about?
So it's basically like the collapse of society. He moves stuff from one place to another. He's like a courier.
Oh, it's not about people in an arena driving around using...
No, there's going to be scenes in that in season 2, but it has a plot, and that's what the reason what I loved about it. Like the shows or the games that are going to be successful are the ones that have limited story structure, so Hollywood can't F them up. Like the reason Sonic is so successful is because despite all of the Sonic lore that the weirdos online know about, like the people that are going to go to the Sonic movie are the people like me who are millennials who would, you'll bring your kids or you'll go with your friends to go see Sonic. The Knuckles show is okay too.
Yeah, it is funny how they try to do like realistic versions of things, thinking that would work, and then it doesn't.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
When are they doing Echo the Dolphin?
I asked that one. I'd want that for the soundtrack alone. It'd be like somehow have Echo the Dolphin and Free Willy show up together, but they'd have to make it all CGI. That would suck.
Episode 3, like Echo just drowns.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of weird that they made that game? Like they used to make games back in the day that made no sense.
Yep.
Like Toe Jam and Earl, I bought it recently. And then I found out it was part 2, and I'm angry and I want to destroy it with a hammer. Because obviously Toe Jam and Earl 1 was a great game, where you're walking around, you get roller skates, and and you go over the water. Part 2 is like a weird platform. It makes no sense. I don't want to play that.
Games were awesome back then.
Yeah, I went to, there's a store in Winchester, Virginia called Back to the Media.
Yep.
And it's great. So I recommend them. You guys check it out because they got all the old stuff. They got NES, SNES,
so
Genesis.
expensive. I mean, I
know.
It's so like the only stuff that I have is like I don't play modern games. I play retro games, and it's so damn expensive if you want to play retro games.
But I was there, and I was just looking at all of the different games, and then I'm just remembering, these Gen Z and these Gen Alpha, they don't know what they missed. Because when we were growing up, we had a rack with like 30 NES games in it. And it was just like, what am I going to play now? Wrecking Crew. Remember Wrecking Crew? It was like Mario with a sledgehammer and you got to break lockers or something and brick walls. And now there's, like, if you're Gen Z, you had one game, GTA 5, for 10 years. It's the same game no matter what. Yeah. Just different online versions. So it's no surprise that they all just played Minecraft. And Minecraft, Fortnite, and GTA, because no new games get made.
Yeah. I can go back and play Streets of Rage and Streets of Rage 2 and still love it as much now.
I just miss the days when like a game was released and the game was actually done when it was released.
Like, well, to be fair, that wasn't always true. But what would happen is if the game got released and there was a bug or a glitch, it would become an exploit that players would learn about and use in the gameplay. So like Mario 64, for instance, when you watch speed runs, when they do the like any percentage speed run, they jump through walls. They use the glitches as a skill component of the game. In Smash Brothers Melee, there's something called wave dashing, where this is a fighting game for those that don't know. If you did an air dodge and hit the ground at the same time, you could do it so quickly you basically glide across the screen. They went, oops, that was a mistake. So the next game that came out, they said, get rid of that. We don't want that. And it was a skill component of the game. You didn't know how to do it. So now games are all ruined with updates because I remember, like, Destiny is a good example. In Destiny, it's like a first-person shooter, and you have a vehicle called a Sparrow. When the game first came out, you could walk up to a wall, and then if you pulled out the Sparrow vehicle, it's a future, so it just like forms in front of you. You could go through the wall and explore, zones you're not supposed to be in. And then they went, oops, can't do that. You're banned, and we're patching this so you can never do it again. And that's like, well, that was fun for a second. Now it's
banning people over that is completely and totally
bro. World of Warcraft
botched move.
The worst thing they ever did in World of Warcraft was make flying, big mistake. And back in the OG days, 20 years ago now, you could glitch through walls and jump up and climb around and explore this whole world they made. And they'd ban you if you went into if you went to the wrong zones. And then they eventually updated the game so you can't do it anymore. Whack. Yeah. Gen Z doesn't know what they've lost.
I still go play. I play my N64 all the time.
Isn't it amazing how like A Link to the Past is one of the best games ever made, and they just don't. Here's something I was thinking about: A Link to the Past for SNES, Super Mario World for SNES. Those are great games with great formats. They don't make games like that anymore.
No.
Obviously, they've tried remaking Mario, like they've made platform Mario versions again because they realized people like it and they did Mario Maker, but literally take the same graphics, the same 16-bit in the music, and make a new version and sell it. Because just because it's rudimentary technology doesn't mean the game isn't fun. Like chess is 1,000-year-old. Like chess is like 50,000-year-old technology. It's little carved blocks, and the game is what 1,000 years old. So a game like A Link to the Past, this top-down view, and he's running around, and you swing your sword and you hold it, and he spins. Every time they make a game now, it's got to be this updated third-person 3D open world version.
Old Castlevania.
Well, look at the new stupid Mario Kart, where it's like, why do I need an open world in Mario Kart?
They did that?
Yes. The new $80 Switch 2 Mario Kart is open world. So you can just stop racing and go. And
Get
it's like,
lost.
they're out of ideas.
Actually, that sounds pretty fun. You can just like go for a drive through the mountains.
I think but you do it like once and you're like,
I kind of want to do that. But can you even get the Switch 2 right now?
No, I don't think so. It's like 500, and then the games are $80 now. So it's like,
So if they took the exact same graphics and style of like A Link to the Past, because the graphics were all that they needed to be. They don't need to be any more than that for that game. It's like a board game. It's like a digital board game. They could just be like, here's the next adventure of Link in Hyrule, and there's new dungeons, and it's a new map with new quests. I would buy every one of those. Those are the games I would play. I have no problem playing GTA or, I like playing Trials. Super good at, Trials, Fusion, and Rising. Those games are fun. Make new levels, keep the same gameplay. I'm totally fine with it. But they stopped making games like Nintendo games, like the OG games like Genesis. They didn't need to stop those game formats.
Yeah.
That's what's weird.
I was the first kid on my block to have a Super Nintendo back in the day. When it first came out, we couldn't afford a Nintendo, a regular NES, because I'm so old. And we grew up in Baltimore, and they said, my parents told me, when SNES comes out or whenever the next best thing comes out, we'll get it for you. And I remember going to Macy's and getting it.
I remember when my dad rented SNES from Blockbuster.
Yeah, we rented a 64 before I ended up getting one. I was basically that kid in that video. Nintendo 64.
Didn't you have to put down like $50 or something?
I don't know.
To deposit.
It was very little.
We had like a local video. It wasn't a chain, but like a local rental store where you could rent an N64. Those were a lot of core memories, like renting the whole console for the weekend.
And Mario.
Regular Sega Genesis, not Nintendo 64.
So it's also kind of crazy that Mario 3, epic game, always going to be good. Super Mario World, amazing. Mario 64, amazing. And after that, what do we got? Nothing.
Like on that system?
No, I just mean in terms of really great games that were surprisingly revolutionary and fantastic. Like what's the Mario where he's got the water pack? It's like
Super Mario Sunshine.
sure, it's whatever,
Mario
I guess.
Sunshine.
Yeah.
The best thing to come out of that was what's the song Gusty Gulch or something like that a lot of people use for weddings.
Oh,
So yeah,
really?
yeah.
Well, how about that?
That's a late thing. When I'm not looking up plus size park hoppers, I'm looking up nerd weddings.
The Real Hydra says, I buy a game and I find out it was part 2. Imagine that I was going to break it because I was so wrong. I would say that if your cognitive capabilities are such limited that you don't understand what sarcasm is or hyperbole, then you, sir, need assistance in watching a show such as this. Or maybe it's not the kind of show for you.
Or part 2 is, part 1 for you, and then you get the prequel.
But it's a different game. Have you played Toe Jam and Earl?
It's been a long time.
You played that one? You guys remember it? It's like
I remember it, but I didn't play it.
Yeah, you're like walking around and you get an elevator, goes to the next level, and then you get items, and it's just silly game. It's fun. You know what the craziest thing about these games? You can't play them on HD.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's-
really?
Because the pixels are so big, you can't see anything.
Even-
It's so weird.
I play anytime I play my Sega or my N64, I have a smaller old TV to play it on.
My friends, we're going to go to that members-only call-in show, so smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Word of mouth. That's what makes shows big. Makes them big because everybody's like, dude, you got to watch. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. That uncensored show will be at rumble.com/TimcastIRL. You got to be a Rumble Premium member. Use promo code TIM10 to watch. Not so family-friendly, but always fun and funny. So it should be fun. Tim, you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, go follow me at Tim Runs His Mouth, and that's kind of it. I mean, you guys can go, oh, you know what? I should do this. I'm a CEO of a company. Go get the Veebs app on your phones. The Veebs app, make sure that you don't give money to companies that hate you. You can go scan UPC codes when you go shopping, and it shows you just how conservative or liberal products are. It's kind of fun.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Guys, if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram and on Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. But what you should do is watch Pop Culture Crisis. We are live Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. Check us out there. It's a lot of fun.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. Our new record dropped on January 31st. It's called Anti-Fragile. You can check it out on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora, Deezer, the internet. And don't forget the Left Lanes for Crime.
We will see you all over at rumble.com/TimcastIRL in about 30 seconds. Thanks for hanging out.